This video is brought to you by our new Patreon campaign. Please go support us.
When I think of my wife, I always think of her head. I picture cracking her lovely skull, unspooling her brains, trying to get answers. The primal questions of any marriage. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? What have we done to each other?
Something I love about Gone Girl, directed by David Fincher and written by Gillian Flynn, is how powerfully different the story is from your typical murder mystery thriller. The obvious plot point one would assume I'm talking about here is the twist of Amy faking her murder, and we will get to that, but while it was great, that particular plot point sits very much on the surface of this film. I'm more fascinated with the underlying themes of the abuse, that is the entertainment media's speculation on crime and its potential suspects, that so easily influences society to crucify the potentially innocent without any real evidence or trial, and how the film's creators parallel this with Amy's behaviour. This is shown through protagonist Nick Dunn, played by Ben Affleck, whose wife Amy, played by Rosamund Pike, goes missing in suspicious circumstances. To begin with, Nick is treated as a victim, but due to the media's scrutiny of him and the guilty triggers that were left behind by Amy for them to find, eventually most of whom supported him, including the police, turn against him, treating him as the number one suspect in what is likely a homicide. This is achieved by setting up the mystery of what happened to Amy. And for half the film, we are led down a path that shows that Nick may have murdered her. Well, kind of. Here's what I mean. Shortly after the film opens, Nick goes to the bar, chats with his sister, and then gets a call from his neighbour who tells him his front door is wide open and that he should check it out. Nick then returns home and finds this to be true. This is point one. We now know that something happened in the house during Nick's absence. This could be as simple as Nick not locking the door correctly before he left, or someone breaking in. But pay attention, as the next event is more revealing. Nick walks into his home, he calls for Amy, we hear no response. We see him search every room, and again, with nobody else around, he calls for Amy. At this point, if he was somehow guilty in any way, then who is he performing for? The answer is simple: nobody. Unlike most murder mystery thrillers where they would leave it ambiguous, the film is telling you he is innocent. But this is where the storytelling gets interesting. The director and writer, through Amy, try to manipulate you the same way the entertainment media is, convincing you that the man the film just showed you was innocent is actually guilty, making you question if what you saw was legitimate or some kind of act. This is done via establishing reasonable doubt. For those of you who don't know what a reasonable doubt is, I think it's best described as when finding out your girlfriend is cheating on you and has fallen pregnant, she then claims the baby is yours. As you now know more context around the pregnancy, you have a reasonable doubt the baby is yours. In the context of the film, the concept of establishing a reasonable doubt is to find a plausible reason to doubt Nick's innocence. This was done by showing us enough small signs of possible guilt and unlikable traits in his character so that when Amy said, "This man may kill me," we were ready to send him to jail ourselves. The obvious one is that the police mention that the crime scene looks to be staged and blood was cleaned up. When Amy first goes missing, we see him check out the detective. We see Nick hiding potential evidence. He doesn't know that she had any friends. We find out he was cheating on her. He is at best emotionally inconsistent, and the revelations from Amy's diary certainly didn't help his case. This is all about destroying Nick's credibility, so you will be unlikely to believe his side of the story, nor anything we saw from his perspective. Think about it this way. If I told you I think this man killed his wife and presented no other evidence or suspects, you would likely not send him to jail because there isn't enough reason to convict him. But if I told you I think this man murdered his wife and have a record of her saying he has assaulted her in the past and that she was worried about her own safety from him, you are much more likely to convict him. This stems from Western culture's desire for quick justice, especially for women, as we tend to view them as the innocent and weaker sex. Amy and the entertainment media uses that against us. They won't come out and say he is a murderer, but they will do everything they can to imply that he is. This is done by insulting his character, questioning his actions, and painting him as an evil, twisted man, while painting Amy as a beautiful and innocent woman we would all die to have in our lives. You can see this in the way Amy painted herself. For the first half of the film, everything we learn about her is from her own mouth. Her diary flashbacks show her as a lovely, devoted, sexy, basically perfect wife, and then shows Nick as a wolf in Prince Charming's clothing. Amy isn't a villain that needs guns or henchmen. She holds all the power because firstly, society deemed her innocent before they even knew her, and secondly, the entertainment news media wanted to profit off her story. And really, what makes this film so powerful and relevant is that it speaks directly to real dating and relationships. When we meet someone we are interested in, like Amy and Nick, we put on another face trying to attract them. We dress better, act romantically, pretend to like the things they like, and do things we ordinarily wouldn't do. But when things get comfortable and/or the hardness of life comes, our true colours begin to shine through. We become lazy and hold expectations over the other person while they do the same. How often have we heard, "He's not the man I married," or "She was different when we first met," right before a couple breaks up and/or gets divorced? The only difference with Gone Girl is that Amy is a psychopath and most women aren't. Right? I'm sure they're fine. This is what makes this movie so scary. It's relatable, it hits home, and because of how society views men versus women, it could in theory happen, and that's what scares the crap out of me, and I love that. Anyway guys, those are some of my general thoughts about Gone Girl as a film from a story standpoint. Let me know what you think of this new type of video and we can have a conversation. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and alert button. If you want to see more videos, then please consider supporting the Patreon page. You can follow The Film Guy on Twitter @TheRealFilmGuy or myself @TESDrew. Anyways, we'll see you again soon.